Well, welcome back to videos. It's been a little while since we've had a new one, and hopefully with some of the feedback that you guys gave me on the earlier videos, we can make these going forward better and better, and try to make them a little more effective for everybody. We'll give it a try. As you see there on the opening slide, today's topic is with matter, its properties and its changes, as well as how we classify matter. So that's how we'll start things off, and I think you'll find that this unit has a lot of contrasting terms, so I'll kind of point those out to you as we go along, and it can, I think, go a long way in helping it make it easier to get the ideas straight, keep the ideas straight, and not confuse things as you go. So to get started with matter and its changes and the properties that it has and how we classify it, we're going to go into first the different kinds of changes. And if you've already gotten these notes in class as an introduction to the first lab of this unit, then you might skip ahead a little ways until you see classifying matter on the screen, which is a little ways down the road, and start it up from there. But in case you haven't, I'll put these in here anyway. As we get started in this unit, you're going to find out that there are a lot of contrasting terms. And so here are a few examples. By the end of this video, hopefully you can tell the difference between chemical and physical changes, chemical and physical properties, intensive and extensive properties, as well as the differences between mixtures and substances, compounds and elements, the terms heterogeneous and homogeneous, and what a phase is versus an interface. Now, I wouldn't write all these down here as a list because those will all be coming later on in the video, a bit at a time, and explaining each of those pairs to you as we go. But as I say, as you go through this unit, you're going to find a lot of these paired terms that are not necessarily opposites, but they kind of go together and complement each other, and we use them to kind of separate things into these two classes or these two categories a lot of times. So as we go, keep those things in mind. Real quickly first, as we're talking about matter as our predominant topic in this unit, I just want to quickly tell you that matter is basically anything that has mass and volume, which is kind of an old definition you probably have since like ninth grade, and that we find matter in three typical states, as well as plasmas, which are sort of the fourth state. We won't get into plasmas by definition or study them much in the class, so I'll leave them off this list. But we have solids, liquids, and gases, and these again are three things you've heard about since probably first or second grade, and so we won't go too far into these in depth right now. But solids have a definite volume and shape. Liquids have a very definite volume, but not a definite shape. So they'll fill the container that you put them in, but they'll always be 1 liter of water. They'll be 500 milliliters of ethanol or whatever the solution or the liquid might be. It has a volume that's pretty well fixed, but its shape can take on anything that you put it into, as opposed to a gas, which has an indefinite volume and an indefinite shape. So it can expand to fill a large container, it can be compressed to fill a smaller container, and take on any shape that you put it into. So just those kind of three ideas for how matter is generally found. And those are simple terms that you'll need to include in your descriptions, and they kind of happen automatically. The state of matter, solid, liquid, or gas, is one example of something that's coming up later, and that's a physical property. Your simple state is a physical property for you as a type of matter. So if we're talking about a solid, a liquid, or a gas, that's not a throwaway term. That's a physical property that you can mention at any time. So there are two kinds of change that we'll see in the lab. The first lab that we'll do in the unit will be Lab 6. If you haven't already done it by the time you see this video, you'll be doing it soon. And so Lab 6 will help you to see the differences between the two types of change. The first is a physical change, and a physical change is probably a little less flashy than the chemical change, which is the other type. A physical change is one in which the form, the appearance, the state of a material or of matter is changed, but the actual composition is not. So in other words, something like a state change when we change from solid to liquid or liquid to gas. Those can be very simple things that change, say, water from ice to water as this liquid, or from liquid to steam as a gas. And so it's just a state change. It's still water. And the same thing's true for any material if we go through a simple change in that way. It's still the same thing, but in a different look or in a different form or appearance. Even just chopping up vegetables, you're not really doing anything to them. Chopped carrots are still carrots. They retain all the properties of carrots, for example, and yet they look different. They are smaller pieces or they're shredded into bits, and so their appearance or their form has changed. Nothing too flashy about a physical change, but they're very important, and they're part of nearly every lab that we do. A chemical change is the other type, and in these chemical changes, something significant has happened in order to change what you had into something completely different. You'll have a new material, you'll have a new compound, a new substance, a new element, perhaps a new mixture, but something new with a new name, with a new formula, with new composition, and so you'd call it by something else. And so if we have iron rusting or turning into rust, it's combining with oxygen from the air and it's rusting or tarnishing, if you want to think about it that way. That's something new. Iron is new, rather rust is new, and has very different properties than the original iron did or than the oxygen did, and so that's a chemical change. These are also known, as you see here, as chemical reactions, and generally we think of these as a little bit more exciting. Most of the fun things we think about as reactions will fit under this category, but there are some physical changes that are pretty cool too, and hopefully we'll see some examples of those as the year goes on.